up, party people? So this is a second installment of the Deja Vu series, I'll call it. It's based on a booklet that I've self-published here called Deja Vu by Design. And it's a further sort of journey into my obsession with deja vu. What's interesting is, I think I'll go into this a little bit, maybe in another video. I've been researching sort of what consensus science thinks about deja vu, and they don't have very good things to say, which I find pretty interesting. I've never known it to be a sign of mental fatigue or stress or illness, but I saw it related to epilepsy and fatigue and burnout and seizures, which I found interesting. I won't go too much into that today, but you can do your own research, and I may do a little bit more on that. I don't want to necessarily do a whole lot of repeat from my earlier live about deja vu. You can go check that out here on my channel. How's my hair? Looking pretty raw anyway. Today I want to go more into the beginnings of this booklet. So just as a small recap, we did talk about how deja vu has an aspect of impossibility that most commonly when people experience moments of deja vu, there's this feeling that it would be impossible for me to really be living this moment again. We talked about how there's a kind of a nod to time travel, and I explained my theory about how the future and the past aren't somewhere, but they exist in an every when imaginal type of reality. Sorry, I thought my computer just messed up on me there. So the every when that is always accessible, we can access it by our imagination, and by accessing it, we do sort of change it so that memory is a filter. I also talked about, how I don't believe that memory is housed in the body, because the body being a clump of infinitesimally immediate moments, there would be no place for memory to be housed. And how maybe we see memory as our own, but once we have observed, memory goes into the imaginal realm of every when. I also talked about how this is sort of hard to discuss because our language is deficient when it comes to talking about time, space. So, usually we refer to it as space-time. You hear that a lot. And I'll just ask you to notice when people discuss the future and the past, how they sort of place the future past into a container. In the future or in the past. The past is behind us. The future is ahead of us. All these kind of cliches that you hear a lot point to my theory that we have this spatial bias in our language that's survival based. It makes sense, but what it does is it gives us a lack of real vocabulary for discussing time, space. So if you hear me stuttering and umming a lot, that's part of it, is I'm trying to find vocabulary for discussing this kind of stuff, and I'm trying to get away from the common space-time spatial bias vocabulary, but it's difficult. So I might do a lot of umming and stuttering over my words because it's a little difficult. So please go watch the other Deja Vu video that I posted. It's a live that you can go back and rewatch. And I don't want to do a whole lot of repeating, so you can go watch that. But some of the stuff I get into, you'll need to have some of that terminology that I use and some of those ideas in your brain for this to make sense. So, what I want to go through today is the beginnings of the glossary in my Deja Vu by Design booklet, which you can purchase at ZachWestI2C2.com. And I'll put that in the comments here. And if you want to read this booklet, then you can purchase it, and I will send it to you with maybe a little surprise piece of art. All right, so it's in the comments. All right, so the glossary. I call it a glossary of sorts. In the beginning, what I'll go through today are the first two techniques, and they are housed under the umbrella term probability engineering. And so decoding and encoding is what I'll be talking most about today. And so decoding and encoding are the basic techniques of probability engineering. Further work with characters and creatures, which I'll go through in probably a different video, may act as ancillary psychomechanical aids. The overall goal lies in composing a pataphysical narrative and developing the ability to alter and mold your own heroic tale. So decoding right here is the definition I have is the idea that the probability engineer can reveal answers by non-ordinary means. So non-ordinary means would be a way to decode things unseen. Okay, so maybe I'll start with ordinary means. So if you were to want to reveal answers by ordinary means, you would use something like a search engine or Wikipedia or an encyclopedia if you're into actual books. There's ways to answer questions by ordinary means. You know, if you know an expert, you ask an expert. We have the insane ability these days to answer most of our questions through devices that we have, right? So we can go on our phones or our computers and we can look up and get an answer. I don't know if it's always correct or accurate, but we can get an answer to almost any question. So that's ordinary means. If you think about like what would it be like to give a device, a tablet or a phone to somebody in 23 AD, that would be non-ordinary means to them. It would probably baffle them to the point where they might think you're a sorcerer or something. If you were to show them, you know, your ability to speak into this weird device and it gives you an answer. These days, non-ordinary means would be similar to what that would be. It's this ability to use your imagination to decode some part of reality that you can't get to by ordinary means. So one of my favorite examples, stories that it happened to me is finding lost items. And so I've done a few decoding projects to find lost items. You can do it to, you know, find people. You can decode to, one of my friends loves to decode like meetings. So you're going into a meeting and he likes to decode like, what do I need to know in this meeting? What is the pertinent information that I would like to know? If I can link to a self after the meeting's over, what should I have known during that meeting? And so you use the technique of decoding to answer questions by non-ordinary means. Encoding is the ability to influence events by non-ordinary means. So to influence events by ordinary means would be, if you're in a meeting and you're talking, or if you're playing in a band and you're playing your instrument, then you're influencing those events by quote unquote ordinary means. Non-ordinary means would be using your imagination to influence an event to collapse as a moment of deja vu by design. And again, go back and watch that other video, and that'll be a little more clear, although it's never going to really be very clear because, again, we don't really have language for this type of stuff. So I'm trying to develop that, and if you have any ideas, please send them my way. That would be awesome, because it is a topic that is a little hard to discuss. So encoding and decoding, one of the ways you can do this is to think about immediacy and indeterminacy, and I'll do another video on those to go more into that. But the idea is that you would decode more immediate events, that it makes most sense to try to decode yesterday and tomorrow because they're more determined the more immediate they are. And so you have a better ability to decode answers from reality that has been determined or is low entropy. And encoding would be for more indeterminate or less immediate parts of reality, because you have more influence over the future past selves that would lie somewhere 5 years from now or 5 years ago. That those are more malleable selves, I say. So if you were to want to play a certain venue, if you're a musician, or you want to create some event, you would want to broadcast it into the more indeterminate or less immediate parts of reality. And the way that works is you create symbolic representations of these answers or events. And so to go with the decoding, you could create some sort of melody or rhythm that represents the answer that you need. And then while playing this melody or rhythm, you would be so focused on the melody and the rhythm that you wouldn't be thinking about the question or the answer. And if you can get to an empty state, you can then allow impressions to come in, and then somehow you can scribe those or write those down or speak it into some sort of recording device or something like that, and then try to see if one of those answers feels or resonates. And then eventually, because you're doing it with reality that is more immediate, you will confirm, yes, I did answer this truthfully. Yes, that answer did come through and it was accurate, or it wasn't accurate. So as far as the decoding goes, here's a little example that you can do on your own. So in this live, at the end of this live video, something is going to happen. And so what we can do here is we can go into a meditative state. I'll put on some music, and you're going to project yourself to the self who is watching the end of this video. Don't cheat. If you're rewatching it, don't fast forward to the end and see what it is. Just spend some time. Let's meditate a little bit and see if you can attach yourself to a future self and decode what it is that's going to happen at the end of this video. So if you would, close your eyes or do your favorite type of meditation. See if you can project yourself to the end of the video and download an answer to something is going to happen. What is it? will most likely be sitting where you're at right now. The smells will be similar, the sights will be similar. Some unexpected thing is going to happen. Now write down any impressions that you may have gotten. One of my other goals in making these examples is that you will realize that this is not easy. There's nothing necessarily easy about this type of work. And encoding would be very similar. And I make that point to, to sort of give the warning that it's not like TV movie magic, which I'm not a huge fan of. I don't want to criticize it in case some of you all like it, but it's not the waving of the hand and crazy stuff happening like you would see in the Harry Potter or a Marvel movie. That it is incredibly difficult, but the techniques are there. And like anything that's incredibly difficult, if you practice it and hone your craft, it's very rewarding if you can get some success with it. It's very kind of cool. So an encoding may work in that you would go into a similar meditative state, and then you would, plan for some future event that you want to influence. Okay. So if it is, going on vacation, you would see yourself in a certain place. Let's just hypothetically go with Scotland. Okay. So you want to go to Scotland, you would definitely want to know sort of what Scotland looks like, go into a meditative state and project yourself to a future self who is in Scotland and conjure up what that might look like, what that might smell like, what that might feel like. And once you come out of that meditative state and you have what I call a virtual rendering of future self in Scotland, you then make a symbolic representation of that event, which could be a melody or a rhythm, or there's a whole other type of techniques that you can that we could go through. If you get a hold of me, I can show you. I have a whole list of things I like to do, and then you focus on that symbolic representation with one pointed concentration, just nothing else in the universe except for that symbol in you. You don't think about what it represents while you're concentrating on it. And the idea is then that eventually that virtual rendering you did during your meditation, an event similar and very close to that will coalesce and collapse into particle reality, where you will have a moment of deja vu by design of you in Scotland. And it'll be so close to the virtual rendering, you will gain agency in your ability to influence future selves. So encoding and decoding are really the crux, or they're the most important techniques. I will do some more videos on the other ones. There's 3 other techniques. And there's also tools that we use and elements that we use as well. So you can look forward to those in some future videos that we do. I like to do these live, and I want to do one more decoding meditation session, and I'm going to give you a clue. Okay, it'll have something to do with music. So this event that's going to happen at the end of this video will have something to do with music. Okay. So you go into your favorite type of meditative state. You project yourself to the end of the video. You have a clue now as to what might happen, which will give you more of a avenue towards decoding this. Okay, so this clue is that it'll be something musical. Any impressions that you get, just write them down. Again, you're only cheating yourself if you cheat in any way, but really it's more about in the meditative state, link to a future self, empty yourself out, and see if you can download something that's not wishful thinking or guessing. That is an impression that comes from a future self, not just you fantasizing right now. So again, your surroundings will be very similar, but that future self will have the answer what musical thing is going to happen or has happened at the end of this video. And then write down any impressions that you may have gotten. Now, these techniques and things from my book and all of this is not something that I am a fundamentalist about. These are guesses that I've made and theories that I have. If you disagree, I would love to hear it because I'm not set on any of this. And I am definitely down to change my thinking. And I'm not a fundamentalist about it, so I love the discussion. So please give me any kind of discussion that you might have about this type of stuff, and I'd love to open it up because I'm all about conversation. So to recap, we have decoding and encoding as ways to use the imagination to collapse moments of deja vu by design. And without further ado, here is the event.
Twinkle, twinkle, little star, how I wonder what you are. Up above the world so high, like a
23. So that was it. Hopefully you got it. If not, don't be discouraged. This is hard stuff. So I'll see you in the next video. Thank you very much. Share, subscribe, like, comment, all the things. Later.